She-Hulk. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know, and I'm going to go through it fast. I'm going to get you all caught up so that y'all can start watching She-Hulk. The first episode came out last week. Let's talk about it. First things first, Bruce's origin. This is Bruce Banner. Way back when Bruce Banner was known as Edward Norton, Bruce was one of many scientists that were trying to recreate the super soldier program that gave the world Captain America in years past. Bruce's idea was to leverage gamma radiation to solve the problem, but after he was exposed to a lethal amount of it, a special gene he was born with causes his body to fuse with the radiation and transform him into the Hulk for brief periods of time when he gets mad. After trashing the lab and killing some folks by accident, Bruce becomes a fugitive from the US military and then goes on the run. That all happens in The Incredible Hulk. More shit happens in the movie, but we don't fucking care about what happens in that movie because that's all. He's still on the run after the movie, so nobody fucking cares. The Abomination. In The Incredible Hulk, the same movie, a special forces team whose task is to capture Bruce and bring him into custody is led by Emil Blonsky. After failing miserably to capture Bruce, Emil elects to be injected with a similar serum as Bruce and gains super strength, agility, and healing, but at the expense of suffering brain damage and vastly deteriorating judgment. After failing to capture Bruce a second time and getting his ass whooped, Emil happens upon Bruce's blood in a lab, and he injects it directly into his body, mutating him grotesquely into the Abomination pictured here. Eventually, he loses his fucking shit from the rampant damage from his brain, and Hulk kicks his ass again, allowing the government to capture Emil, letting Hulk go free for some reason. We also see Abomination again in Shang-Chi with a hefty redesign matching closer to his comic book counterpart, and he is fighting our very own Wong from Doctor Strange in an underground fighting ring. Wong kicks his fucking ass, yet another L for the big guy, but there aren't any hard feelings between the two as they both proceed through a magic portal to what looks like a metahuman prison cell. That is the last we see of him, but we will see him again in She-Hulk. Bruce becoming Professor Hulk. This occurs between the end of Infinity War and the beginning of Endgame. After leaving Asgard as it's being destroyed by Hela and Surtur, Bruce and the refugee Asgardians are intercepted by Thanos, who has 2 of the 6 Infinity Stones and is searching for the Tesseract, container of the Space Stone. After a very embarrassing ass kicking from Thanos, Bruce's Hulk form refuses to come out, leaving Bruce in his defenseless human form for the entirety of Avengers Infinity War. It isn't until well after Thanos' snap, wiping away 50% of all life in the universe, that Bruce somehow comes to terms with the Hulk, and the two merge to become Professor Hulk, also known as Smart Hulk. He remains in this form even in She-Hulk. Let's talk about Natasha and Bruce's relationship. First, Natasha, aka Black Widow, and Bruce have a long history, with Natasha being the one who tracked Bruce down in Kolkata and convinces him to join the Avengers in the first Avengers Assemble movie. Bruce is very wary to be part of the team as the Hulk form because he's so dangerous, and even has an unfortunate incident with Natasha as he enters the Hulk form and chases her throughout the helicarrier. Later in Avengers Age of Ultron, Natasha becomes the only one that can talk Bruce down from his Hulk form in the form of a lullaby. The two develop a very deep connection from this, even bonding over the fact that neither of them are able to have children. They even entertain the idea of running away together, which is heartbreakingly lovely. In the end, Bruce decides that it's too dangerous for him to be on Earth, and that the Hulk cannot possibly be the hero that the people want because he can't control himself. So he leaves Earth in his Hulk form in the Quinjet and remains in that form for 3 whole years, losing touch with his humanity almost entirely. It isn't until Thor Ragnarok, when the Hulk listens to the last recording that he ever received from Natasha, that he's finally able to revert back to Bruce. After his run-in with Thanos, Heimdall is actually able to transport Hulk back to Earth just before he's killed by Thanos himself. Bruce's reunion with Natasha is brief, but it is touching, as Bruce warns his comrades of the coming of Thanos. Finally, years after Thanos' snap and half the universe is blown away, our heroes go on a time heist to retrieve the Infinity Stones and undo what Thanos has done. Unfortunately, in that quest, Natasha did not survive the trip back, and it utterly devastates Bruce when they all return to the present. Endgame. In Avengers Endgame, Bruce loses Natasha, the love of his life, Steve, aka Captain America, as he decides to live out his life in the past where he belongs, and finally his closest friend, Tony, who dies from snapping away Thanos and his forces with the Infinity Gauntlet. The main thing you need to know about Daredevil is that, yes, this is the same Matt Murdock from the Netflix series Daredevil, albeit a potentially rebooted version, meaning any canon from that series may or may not hold up now that he's in the MCU. You really just need to know that he exists and that it's the same actor as in that previous show. He already made a cameo in Spider-Man No Way Home. It was very brief, so we really didn't get any kind of hint on what his backstory is, if any of it is canon. And there you have it, everything you need to know before watching She-Hulk.